Steel Vengeance is one of the most insane roller coasters ever built. A record-breaking hybrid coaster that replaced a terrible, insanely rough wooden coaster. But the story of Steel Vengeance goes all the way back to 1990, when Cedar Point built one of the biggest, most hyped roller coasters of the era. A ride that was supposed to be the next big thing, but instead became one of the park's biggest disappointments. This is the complete story of Steel Vengeance, from the hype of Mean Streak to the downfall, the rumors, the rebuild, and the wild first season of the wildest roller coaster. Hello everyone, I'm Enthusiast Overview, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the history of, you guessed it, Steel Vengeance, and it goes all the way back to the late 1980s, where Cedar Point had just opened Magnum XL 200, the world's first hypercoaster, and it made Cedar Point a national destination. The park wanted to keep the momentum going, so in 1990, Cedar Point announced something massive, a wooden coaster unlike anything before, called Mean Streak. At the time, Mean Streak was huge, over 160 feet tall, and at the time, it was the tallest wooden coaster. It still is one of the tallest wooden coasters ever built, and it had a massive footprint, twisting through the back of Frontier Town. It was built by the Din Corporation, a manufacturer known for big wooden coasters that usually got rough very, very fast. The idea of a giant wooden coaster is extremely exciting, and people were hyped. The layout looked incredible, the scale looked insane, the marketing was aggressive, people expected a monster. But even during its opening year, coaster enthusiasts started noticing something was wrong. The ride was rough, like really rough, and it wasn't just rough at the bottom of the drop. The entire layout shook, rattled, and slammed. It gave some really uncomfortable lateral G-forces. Riders reported having numb legs, sore backs, and headaches after riding. But what caused Mean Streak to become so rough so quickly? Well, a big part of the problem came from the company that built it, the Din Corporation. Din had a reputation for building massive wooden roller coasters and fast. And while their designs looked impressive, they had several major issues. First, their coasters were built with heavy, high-stress designs that put enormous strain on their wooden structures. Second, they would often underbuild their coasters by not using enough wood. And third, their transitions were often awkward or overly forceful, making their coasters age extremely quickly. There are several other examples of coasters that they built that are really rough and either were completely shut down or had to be getting a huge transition, like the Texas Giant at Six Flags over Texas. It became so rough that Six Flags took their chance on RMC and made it the very first RMC hybrid. Another example, but this one was completely demolished, is the Hercules at Dorney Park. It was so painful around its first drop and the turn and the entire thing that it was demolished in early 2004. And this other example, Predator at Darien Lake, is known as one of the roughest wooden coasters until it got its retrack, and before its retrack, enthusiasts were constantly saying just how bad it was because extremely rough. All of these rides showed the same problems of getting extremely rough and really painful, extremely fast. And after years of making wooden coasters, the Din Corporation shut down in 1992, just 1 year after Main Street opened, leaving Cedar Point with no manufacturer support. Over the next 20 years, Main Street had become a problem. It required huge amounts of maintenance just so it could stay open. Cedar Point kept retracking it over and over again. Some years, they replaced hundreds of feet of wooden track. But no matter what they did, the coaster just kept aging poorly, very poorly. It became known as one of the worst roller coasters ever built. Main Street was such a bad ride that even though when it first opened, its line was hours long, now it was just a walk-on. In 2011, everything changed. RMC, or Rocky Mountain Construction, had made their first ever hybrid coaster, the new Texas Giant, and the roller coaster world exploded. The previous rough, aging, terrible wooden coaster had become an airtime machine. Immediately, fans started pointing at Main Street. From 2012 through 2015, Main Street became the number one coaster fans wanted RMC to fix. Every off-season, the same question exploded across forums and Reddit. Is Cedar Point finally RMCing Main Street? In 2016, something changed. The park shortened its operating hours, its maintenance budget shrunk, crew were spotted making marks on it, workers were spotted walking on the structure with measuring equipment. Then, on August 1st of 2016, Cedar Point tweeted a message that sent fans into a frenzy. Main Street would be closing forever on September 16th of 2016. Cedar Point gave out no hints to what could be replacing it, but fans of the park and coasters had their suspicions that it could be an RMC. In early 2017, the world's worst kept secret in coaster history became undeniable. RMC track had been spotted on site. Crew members had been seen welding Iron Horse track, and the lift hill had been stripped bare. The first strut was reconstructed with a 90-degree angle, but Cedar Point refused to admit anything. Instead, they posted cryptic teasers. The park turned the whole construction project into a mystery, even leaving fake clues around Frontier Town. But by mid-2017, the world knew what was happening. Main Street was being turned into the world's tallest hybrid coaster. On August 16th of 2017, a bit over a year after Main Street was announced to be closing, Cedar Point officially announced the ride as Steel Vengeance, a massive, record-breaking RMC with a 205-foot max height, a top speed of 74 miles per hour, total of 4 inversions, and 27 seconds of airtime. At the time, it was the longest RMC with 5,700 feet of track. It was the tallest, fastest, and it had more inversions than any other one before. And it shattered so many records. A total of 10 records were shattered by it. Steel Vengeance opened on May 5th of 2018 to massive hype. The line stretched 4 hours long. Enthusiasts and general public alike called it a masterpiece. Many said it was one of, if not the best coaster ever built. But just hours after opening, something happened. two of its trains lightly bumped into each other in the station, but luckily there were no major injuries. But Cedar Point did have to close the ride for the rest of the day. It shortly reopened with only one train operations, which is extremely bad for a brand new roller coaster, especially for a major brand new coaster. Though it had a very rocky start, Cedar Point made the absolute best decision they could have made when they decided to RMC Main Streak. And with the help of RMC, they turned by far the worst roller coaster in the world to the best roller coaster in the world. And there is no other coaster even close to as wild as the wildest roller coaster at Cedar Point. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.